what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy an angle that I've been thinking about on LSU Alabama. And let's be clear, from I've been saying it all week. I just feel too close to the case to offer anything that I would consider unbiased or analytical, right? You know what I'm always messing with Taylor about, how like love and hate are so thinly divided. They're two sides of the same coin. And when you love something, the weaknesses appear to loom so much larger than if you don't care. So like analytically, I find myself being a bit negative where the weak link of LSU's defense feels so much weaker than does the weak link of Alabama, that I'm like, okay, the game's a T-Town, Alabama, whatever. They probably win. But at the same time, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about analysis. I don't care about anything. I just want to go full Mad Max, Fury Road, balls to the wall, get out the chrome spray paint, and witness me kamikaze dive into the heart of T-Town. And so with that in mind, it kind of got me thinking, okay, who has more pressure on them in this game, right? Who can play more free and just say, whatever, F it, let's see what happens. And I guess I'm a bit of two minds. First off, on one hand, it has to be Alabama. They're in the driver's seat for the West. They control their own destiny.
Yeah.
They're trying to avoid not winning a national championship for the first time ever in 3 years under Nick Saban. They still have the clearest path. They went out, they beat Georgia, they're in the playoff, and they can compete for all those things once again. And so it's like, okay, yeah, it's Alabama. And they're at home, right? And they lost last year to LSU. You can't go 0-2 against Brian Kelly, lose 3 of the last 5. All of a sudden, the spell is completely broken. So that's all points there. But then I look over on the LSU side, and I'm like, okay, well, the pressure for LSU is not necessarily in the wins and losses as much, though certainly 6-3 feels way different than 7-2 does for Brian Kelly. But it's more, to me, Jake, about, well, you have this legendary offense, and you don't want to have it go to waste. Like, you have a championship-level offense, and so to not even be able to claim a massive signature win or an SEC West title or a championship, like to not claim any of these things with this offense, that too would feel like a huge waste. So there's a lot of pressure there as well. So how do you score it from a pressure standpoint?
I still think it would go pressure to Alabama because of all the things that you laid out there. I mean, when you look at who they are as a program, right? They've been not only a pillar, they've been the standard of college football for so long, and Georgia has taken over that title now. And so if you go a third year in a row where you don't win a national title, if you go another year where you don't play for the SEC championship game, well, I mean, that kind of changes where you're at as a program. I'm not saying they're going away by any means, but if they want to get back to that, they have to win this game. It is a must-win for them. So them being at home, you know, Nick Saban just not losing to the same quarterback 2 years in a row, like all these things that would be, you know, first time in a long time for Alabama, like that is, they have to win to be able to hold on to all of that. So I still think it's for them. I mean, for LSU, look, you got 2 losses. You're probably out of the national championship conversation. Like, even if
I think you are out. I don't think,
yeah,
I mean,
even
barring
if
an 07 miracle, right?
Yeah, that's what I personally am never going to say never with what happened there. But even if you went out, like, it's still like things would have to happen, to your point. So like for you, like, yes, go get a signature win on the road against Alabama, and you've played well in Tuscaloosa. I mean, better there than you have in Baton Rouge. And so I would say that not all the pressure, but most of it is still on Alabama.
And speaking of pressure, that's one thing that I'm kind of fascinated to see is I really want to see how this LSU offense handles it. Because already on the outside looking in now, you have a situation where I can already feel when LSU does have to punt at some point in this game, it's going to feel really bad, right? And it's going to feel like, oh my God, dude, can we just like, oh, kind of almost probably like it felt a bit in that Ole Miss game. And so it's like, it's one of those deals where, can this offense do what Brian Kelly talked about earlier in this week, where it's like, look, this is a confidence offense. They know who they are. They don't feel any untoward pressure. They just go out there and do their job. And that's going to start with that offensive line, who, let's be clear. I think this is the best offensive line in the entire country. I think if you compare this 2019 offense to if you compare this offense to the 19 offense, Jake, a lot of similarities, but I don't think that I would say you're better at any position group save for the 5 across the front. I think you could actually make that argument. But make no mistake, this is going to be the best front 7 that they've played since Florida State, right? And that's the only time. I mean, Auburn was pretty good.
Yeah.
And they handled Auburn easily. Yeah. But Auburn was pretty good. But, like, Florida State was the only time that they kind of looked a bit human. That was a long time ago, and they've all gotten much better. But I want to see, because I think it's all going to start, because if LSU's going to win, they're going to have to be able to run the ball. They're going to have to be able to find some success on inside zone. It's what makes a lot of this offense go. And so that's going to start with those guys up front having success against one of the best defenses in the entire country and maybe the second best defense or first best in the SEC.
One of the things that's going to be interesting in the game plan for Alabama is how much they try to get after Jaden Daniels and how many people do they bring. Do they just play with their 4 down defensive linemen to try to fill it out? And if they're not getting back there and Jaden Daniels is picking them apart, well, how many people do they bring? Because you have to be careful. If you blitz Jaden Daniels and they pick it up, well, that leaves a lot of space for him to move around, step up in the pocket. We've seen him in Como against Mizzou, right? They decide to bring pressure. He steps up and, 40 yards down the field later. So that's what, Alabama's got to – they got to be careful that if they do bring pressure, they better make sure that they get home, because that's what teams are terrified to do, because Jaden Daniel with his legs, but also if you only rush 4, he's going to pick you apart. So it's a pick your poison type situation. So how does, Steele and Saban game plan against Jaden Daniels? And, last year he had some success running the football, but, a lot of Jaden's success in this game, it was throwing the football. It was really one of those games where I thought he grew maybe the most last year.
Yeah, I was watching some highlights, and eventually I need to just sit down and probably rewatch the game last year and see what kind of insight you can gain. What do you think about this? So coming up later today on the Snaps YouTube channel, we're going to on every Thursday we release an episode with our gambling guy, the Colin Wilson guy, who I think has been pretty spot on. He likes Alabama here, Jake. And he basically scores it like this. I just mentioned inside zone, right? He says that both these teams offensively, at the core of what they do, and I don't know that I fully agree with him on the LSU offense, so I would say maybe that's where I would personally disagree, but he seems to think that both these offenses basically operate off of inside zone has to work, and then everything else builds on top of whether it's pulling and throwing or whatever, RPOs, and he goes on to point out that, look, Alabama's pretty good at stopping inside zone, and obviously LSU from a success rate standpoint is very bad. And then I was like, well, but what about LSU's explosive? Nobody's got more 20-yard pass plays, all that stuff. And he's like, well, Alabama has the highest graded secondary in the entire country, according to PFF in pass coverage. So is that too simplistic? Colin Wilson's breakdown, simply that if LSU can't run inside zone, they're going to lose the game.
I think so. I think it is. You've had a bye week as well, so what wrinkle are you going to have in this game plan for both teams? Last year, we talked about it. It might have been yesterday. Maybe you were the day you were in, where last year, right, you come in and you have basically a triple option where Jaden can hand it, he can run it, or he can throw it to Mason Taylor in the flats. Remember, that was the play for this game, and it worked incredibly well in this game, and that was the new wrinkle. And so I think both teams are going to have something new. Yeah, it's kind of an obvious statement to say, yeah, you got to run the football, and LSU basically is a zone run team. They don't run gap scheme, so yeah, if you stop the inside zone, you stop LSU's run game, because that's what they are. That's who they are. So it is simplistic in the fact that he's like, hey, you got to stop this one run play. Well, it's kind of the one run play they run.
Well, and what my question is, though, if that is not working, can you just pass your way over? Can you still pass your way to a win?
Oh,
if you're not running the balls, I think you can. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to with the receivers and Jaden and everything he's shown you this year.
Because Jaden, who's your second leading rusher, he's always a threat to run the football.
Yeah.
So that adds another dynamic to it.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
Those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.